Drew Davison, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers the Dallas Cowboys. That's where the Eagles will be this Sunday night. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. It's the 111th meeting between these two teams, Drew. But the last three in Dallas, Philadelphia has won. And Dallas obviously has to have that in the back of their mind, that just because they're at home this week doesn't mean they have the upper hand in this one.
No, and it is quite crazy. It's actually the last three games in Philly have gone the Cowboys' way. So it's one of those weird stats where two pretty good, passionate fan bases and the home field hasn't mattered these past 3 years. But the Cowboys did start the season. They went more than a year without winning at home before they finally beat the Chicago Bears in week 3. And they've won 2 straight at home. I'm sure it's been a few years since they've won 3 straight, probably since the 2014 season. So certainly an interesting nugget, but the Cowboys are feeling better with how they played at home of late.
Hey, Drew, last year, Eagles-Cowboys 4-12 for Dallas. Philadelphia gets its coach fired. Are you surprised that the turnaround for these two teams has a Week 8 game for first place?
Oh, absolutely, and I think – especially with 2 rookie quarterbacks. I think a lot of people probably thought, or at least from the outside, thought Philly was kind of in rebuilding mode once they traded up to get Carson Wentz and kind of the post-Chip Kelly era, so to speak. And when you look at the Cowboys, when Tony Romo went down in the 3rd preseason game, everyone thought, it could be another long year for the Cowboys, considering this is a team that went 1-11 with 3 backups. But Dak Prescott, to say the least, has proven to be a little bit better than Matt Castle and Brandon Weeden.
Dak Prescott's been astoundingly good for a 4th-round pick. If you had to pick a few reasons for why he's had such great success so far, what would they be?
Well, number one is just the offense he got thrown into. I mean, like a Carson Wentz or Jared Goff or whatever, most rookies are kind of looked to be the savior or salvage a team. Dak Prescott got put in a great situation with arguably the best offensive line. They drafted Ezekiel Elliott to kind of be the bell cow running back, and he's been all that and maybe even a little bit more than they could hope for. You had Dez Bryant. You have Jason Witten as a security blanket. So I think Dak Prescott got into a real good situation where he pretty much just had to be a bus driver and steer them to wins.
Now, the media coverage, Drew, of the Cowboys this year has focused a lot on their offense, but what kind of defense could Carson Wentz expect to look at on Sunday night, and what do they do well, and what are they lacking in?
Well, statistically, they don't do anything well. I mean, they kind of rank middle of the road in terms of giving up big plays, in terms of 3rd down, in terms of sacks, in terms of takeaways, stuff like that. But this is a stereotypical bend but don't break defense, much like the Cowboys unit in 2014. And the one constant has been, they hold opponents low on points. So they are able to get off the field. They're playing the red zone's been okay. So that is one thing. And in this 5-game winning streak, they've held opponents to 17 or fewer points. So that's been the one constant, but you can't point to the, hey, they got a great run D, or hey, they got a great pass rush. Statistically, none of that really shows up, other than the points being pretty solid.
Drew Davison with us, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It's the Eagles and Cowboys. He's got the Cowboys' point of view. I want to stay on that defensive side of the ball for just a minute, because Eagles line struggled against Kerrigan and Washington, Vitae on the road. Now, last week at home against a much better defense with the Minnesota Vikings, they performed much better. Do you think that the Vitae, the right tackle spot is going to be an area where Dallas tries to exploit and go after and send some creative things that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason Garrett didn't really bite on a question earlier this week about Lane Johnson being gone and how much that affects the Eagles' defense. But I would not be surprised if you see DeMarcus Lawrence. He's been playing a lot right end, and I'm sure he'll go up against Peters for much of the game. But he is their best pass rusher. I wouldn't be surprised if they flip him possibly to left in at times in the game just to try and see if he can exploit that hole there on the Eagles. So the Cowboys have not gotten great pressure on quarterbacks all season, but Rod Marinelli loves to mix and match, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe some of the more elite, their better ends go to the left side just to see if maybe they can get some pressure on that side.
Now, there's a local connection, actually. I don't know if you drew. Jack Crawford is a guy that played high school football out here at St. Augustine in New Jersey, and Penn State guy. He's a guy that could maybe put some pressure. What are your assessments of the defensive ends and the pass rush specialists the Cowboys have?
Yeah, Jack Crawford's had a pretty nice season so far. He has a couple sacks, and he actually started the first 4 games when DeMarcus Lawrence was serving a 4-game suspension, and he is certainly a good rotational piece for the Cowboys. And, he's a guy, who has flashes. And when you hear Jack Crawford, coaches always say he's just got a relentless motor where, he gives 100% down in, down out. So he's a guy who certainly could work. He's a guy, who might not right at the start flash, but he keeps coming after him, and during the game, he certainly can flash.
Mike Gill is a big Seinfeld fan, so he will like the headline on your article this week in the newspaper that says, Cowboys offensive line becoming masters of their terrain. Are you master of your terrain? Basically a little Seinfeld allusion, if you will. But all joking aside, you had a great little sub-nugget, I thought, in that article, Drew, about what you think this game could come down to, specifically red zone connected.
Yeah, it looks like we lost Drew there. Otherwise, there he is. We got you there.
Yeah. So you did cut out for a couple seconds, but
right. I was saying I thought
I heard the red zone.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about what you thought the difference could be. What do you think the difference could be as far as in the red zone goes with the red zone defense and the offensive line for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be probably the difference in the game, and I think the Cowboys have a chance to really win that battle given their front 5. I know they kind of get help with Benny Logan. I believe the Eagles have ruled him out. So, of course, Fletcher Cox is also in the middle there. But I think the Cowboys' O-line can present some problems and really in Ezekiel Elliott's a physical enough back where he might be able to have better success than some other teams so far against the Eagles once they get in the red zone.
All right, Drew, obviously there's some other big storylines with some veteran player. One, Dez Bryant, his return. How do you see him being a factor? Because it seems like they've been moving nicely without him. In fact, I've heard some people even suggest, hey, they might be better off without him. Do you think he's a big factor Sunday night?
Yeah, I think he will be, and I think he adds a different dimension. And speaking of the red zone, Dez Bryant, as good as the Cowboys have been, they don't have that physical receiver where if you throw up a 50-50 ball, he's going to come down. And Dez Bryant, of course, has made his living kind of on the fade or the back shoulder fade. So I think, he gives the Cowboys another dimension. And if you look at him in his career, he's always fared pretty well against the Eagles, averages about 100 receiving yards and a touchdown throughout his career. So I certainly think he'll be a factor. I don't know if he'll play every offensive snap. I think the Cowboys will probably limit him maybe about 75% of the snaps, but he says he's ready to go, and he's looked healthy so far in practice.
All right. Obviously, Dak will play this week, but when is the rubber going to hit the road on this one? When is somebody going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question down here. I mean, the quarterback controversy is alive and well, but I think, Dak Prescott will for sure start this Sunday night, and I put it 75-80%, if not even higher, that he plays the following week against Cleveland. The mid-November game against Pittsburgh is really where I think Tony Romo will have come back and been practicing full. And at that point, they're going to have to make a call whether Tony takes a back seat or whether they pull Dak and go with Romo. I mean, they haven't tipped their hand yet, and the Cowboys. But I will say this: the Cowboys have certainly softened their stance in this political season. It went from this is Romo's team to we're just taking it day by day, and we want to make sure he's 100%, that sort of thing. So clearly, they're not ready to take the keys away from Dak Prescott quite yet.
All right, Drew Davison, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Eagles, Cowboys down there, Big D. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN, your home for Eagles football. Drew, we appreciate the time, pal.
Thanks, Drew.
All right, anytime, guys. Thank you.